I'm sitting here wondering, when did this become a whole thing to have different type of running shoes for different type of runs and to have a whole collection of running shoes? How did we get to this point? And why is it that I have so many running shoes now? I want to take you through that in this video. I'm Salvatore, a humble 9 to 5 office worker who is a cyclist, a runner, an aspiring cook, a retired barista, someone who loves to iron his shirts, sleep in a freshly made linen bed, then also, you know, have some really nice espresso and discover amazing food with my girlfriend as we both push each other to conquer mountains, conquer life. We've got an upcoming fun run, 6K, we're excited to basically push ourselves to another level. So basically, kind of with that, I feel I'm in a pretty good position to explain to you, for me, how from running since the early days to now, kind of how everything's changed, the meta of running, and kind of how you can benefit and not be so overwhelmed if you want to get into running, if you stumble across this video, which is awesome, and you can kind of share with others to explain, well, what's the whole picture and, what would I recommend? So first things first, let's explain what the meta is. So meta is a term that's used for most part, say, video games. And the meta is kind of a way to say like the best strategy to say, for example, like, dominate the game if it's like a multiplayer, or if it's another type of game, like the best way to, get the most points or experience, basically like the optimum strategy. So see, the thing for running, the original meta, well, kind of the way I saw it when I first got into running, was that you just kind of had one shoe and that was it, and it would just kind of do everything for you. And truth be told, that's kind of what was the whole case for a while. Running wasn't this really sexy thing in that regard, but kind of what's happened recently, I think what kind of really took off and made this really interesting was that in about, I think 2017, 2018, Nike came out with a shoe that had a carbon fiber plate in it. And basically they came out with a couple of versions of that shoe, just a normal light version, and then like a super lightweight foam with the carbon fiber plate, kind of breaking up to say that, hey, there's a race day shoe that you can use to get a 3% advantage with your current time if you don't change anything. So that was like a huge game changer back then. So it kind of split apart to say, hey, you've got like a race day shoe, lighter weight, and then you've got kind of like a training shoe. And that's kind of where I feel this kind of first started. Now, to kind of take you through the way I saw it, I'll kind of explain my history of the running shoes I've had and kind of showing you how that's evolved and kind of where I'm currently at, what shoes I use for what, and kind of why I've purchased shoes along the way to explain what's going on. So first and foremost, we've got, like, when I first started running in 2015, I don't even know if I can count that, but that's when I wanted to do like long distance, kind of around the house in my back, kind of like my neighborhood. I got a pair of like the fluoro yellow Asics for Christmas, and I started running in those, and I had a lot of fun. They were just kind of a do-it-all shoe. They weren't particularly exciting. I mean, they were exciting from a colorway perspective, but they weren't nothing like too groundbreaking. So that was kind of like the way I saw it. I just used it for training and whatever. And then kind of like I kind of got bored of like running, and then a couple of years later I wanted to get back into it. And then I kind of heard that Nike had come out with this shoe that had effectively, like I said before, had a carbon fiber plate, this new technology. It was faster, it was like proven in races. There was this whole like evolution of kind of where running was heading. It's really interesting because it's kind of like cycling a bit, like, you get a carbon fiber bike, it's lighter versus like an aluminum heavier bike. So it's kind of almost like that a little bit, but going back to running. So that's where this shoe came out. And I wasn't gonna get there's like a training shoe which had the carbon fiber plate, the heavier foam. So you could actually train in that, and that was really interesting. So I thought to myself, well, that would be kind of cool to get. It wasn't until fortunately, there was a position where it came on sale, which I'll talk about in another video, and I was able to get it for a good price. And then I decided, well, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna have some fun with it. And I use this shoe so much, and it's actually this one right here. I don't know if I'll ever get rid of it. It's the Nike Zoom Fly Flyknit, and it's got the carbon fiber plate, and I do think it looks cool even today still. It's a very simple shoe. You can't bend it, it's very stiff. lots of energy return. In that shoe, I set my fastest time ever for the 5Ks. It currently stands, which is 1936. I saw people running that race that day with the actual, race day shoe. And there's also, I think, a version of that shoe back in the day that didn't have the plate, that just had the heavier foam. So I guess mine was in the middle of that, which is pretty cool. So I guess with that shoe, I did everything in it. I did what I'll start with, the idea of the daily training or daily runs. So this is kind of what we're used to, the unsexy idea that you've got to run every day, or that you've got to run at a certain pace, which is called zone 2, an easy run, a pace where you can talk to someone, hold a conversation, and it's actually not too taxing versus kind of going all out, being out of breath and just being all over the place. The point of zone 2 is you're holding a steady pace to kind of build that aerobic efficiency and kind of build the conditioning in your legs. So it's kind of like slowly but surely kind of tackling the enemy fodder in a video game, like a random encounter, to get very selected bits of experience bit by bit. It won't get you to the next level, but enough with it, building that consistency, will get you to that next level. So that's kind of like what 80% of your run should be. So therefore, kind of a daily trainer shoe that you can use for everything. If a lot of your runs are slower and the boring, not as sexy runs, then that should be fine, right? And that's kind of interesting because I did use those shoes as a daily trainer back in the day and they were absolutely fine. But kind of there's some things in that now that I reflect on that I probably was thinking, well, it might not be as good of a shoe for daily training. It might be more suited towards the kind of faster 20% runs for like races and faster workouts, which I'll kind of touch upon. So basically, like, that was kind of my daily trainer that I had for the longest time, and I used it I kind of took it out of my kind of like rotation when I was able to kind of get, I guess the next shoe I got from memory was these ones, which are called the Nike Tempo. So with those shoes down there, you see the bottom of this tread is absolutely worn. So what I would try to do is I'd try to like use these shoes for like eventually like overall faster runs. And it got to a point where like I didn't really have a lot of grip and I didn't really feel comfortable running if the surface was wet in these. So it's kind of why I got these, which I'll kind of come back to soon because these were for like faster workouts, and I'll explain what's going on with that shoe. But I guess if I was to say a daily trainer now, and kind of the other shoe that I've gotten, which has done a lot of miles, is this one, the Nike Invincible 2, which is the older version of the current Invincible 3. And I got it for a really good deal. And this is a daily trainer shoe. Now, the difference between this and that shoe, this foam is that kind of more premium foam I talked about, but it's really soft and squishy. It's kind of what's called a max cushion daily trainer. It's a more premium daily trainer than you'd kind of expect. Daily trainers are meant to be like this type of foam without the plate, type of like nothing too exciting, but a solid enough foam to give you a lot of like miles training and lots of tread. This has that lots of tread component and this really cushiony foam to absorb a lot of the impact and kind of keep you going on those like slower or longer runs to keep your legs feeling fresh. Because the bulk of your mileage is going to be the training in the zone 2, the daily training, kind of the, defeating enemies, gaining, staggered XP, and then eventually leveling up. Which kind of then gets me to, like I was hinting before, the faster type of runs, which I would do kind of with those Zoom flies, and they were great, but it got to a point where I didn't have enough traction. And that's why I got these Nike Zoom Air Tempo Next Percent. I think it's the full name. Now, these are actually discontinued at the moment, but these are an awesome, awesome training shoe. They're like a premium training shoe, and this is kind of where the meta changed again. So you kind of had like the race day shoe, which if I can get up and diverge, would be this, which is kind of like that one I first showed, but it's got these extra little zoom pods in of air. And then kind of when this came out, they kind of also released this alongside, which is like it. So it's meant to mirror it. So, because they say this has got so much Ks you can put on it, because it's a race day shoe. Race day shoes are lighter. The tread doesn't wear as long, they say. And therefore, because of that, if you do a lot of training in them, you're going to eat through them quite quickly. Whereas this shoe is meant to take like a lot of training load. So I love these for like interval runs and tempo runs. Now, interval runs, tempo runs, what on earth are they? They're the 20% of running that you're gonna do to kind of get faster. It's to push yourself to the next level and do workouts that are more, 7 to 9.5 out of 10 intensity. The really hard ones where you sweat, you're swearing inside your head thinking, why am I doing this? And you're just kind of hating it at certain points in time. So the good thing about this shoe is like that purple one I just showed. It's got this Zoom fancy air in this part of the shoe, not all of it, that's the older, heavier foam. It's got the AirPods, it's got great traction, and it's got a plastic plate, which kind of works in a similar fashion to the carbon, just not as high end. But this one, the surface is super wide, so when you're doing the faster workouts, you've got a really good platform to land on. It just kind of gets you in that stride. Whereas if you tried to use this as a daily training shoe, it's because of this, it doesn't really transition as well. So it doesn't really work as a daily training shoe. You'll probably, if you try to run really slow in it, it won't really feel comfortable, which is kind of where it's, again, diverging from the whole, one shoe would do everything. You've got a daily trainer or premium daily trainer like I've shown. You've got, a race shoe, and then you've got this like faster training shoe, which is meant to eat up miles, right? And just crush them with ease. So to kind of explain the interval runs are where you do for me, it's like a simulation of a race. So I would do 1 kilometer at a race speed, which is 3 minutes 45, I think was the fastest I did it. So that means 3 minutes 45 is the time it takes me to run a kilometer. So that means the lower that number is, the faster it is. The higher the number, the higher. And for my American friends out there, I believe you use pace per mile. So this means that when you've got your running watch or your Strava, which I'd recommend you download, you can hit go on the workout, and as you run, you'll be able to see objectively like, oh, okay, my current pace is saying I'm going to complete the K in 6 minutes a K if it's a slower run, or I'm going to complete it under 4 minutes, which is more of a really, really quick pace. It's going to tire you out. So that's kind of like your metric in kind of how different speeds correlate to different, obviously times, but what that means when I say pace per K when I kind of explain it for these workouts. So you do 1 kilometer at a race pace, and then after that you get a break. I would do like a 4-minute break, that eventually I did it down to 3, and then maybe 2 minutes, and then you go back again for another 4 repetitions. That was hard. It's like a 9 to 9.5 out of 10. Like, it's really tricky. You go really fast, but after it, you feel so confident. It's like you did a boss battle and you crushed it. You feel the experience, you feel faster, you feel amazing, you feel a surge of energy. You just feel insane. So that's kind of why every little bit, like having a shoe designed for those faster workouts, really helps you to excel at that. And there's also another type of run I discovered, which is kind of like that, but not as hard, but still really enjoyable. And it's a bit more safer for your body if you're trying to, kind of avoid getting injured. Like I had a scare in December, January last to this year. It's called a tempo run, which is what those shoes are named after, which is actually pretty hilarious. So a tempo run is you take your race pace, which let's say if mine at the moment is probably, I think, 350, 355 a K, based on the most recent race I've done. Take that and you kind of add 20 to 15 seconds. So that kind of puts me at like 410, 420 pace per K. So you do that speed, which is still difficult, but interestingly enough, you're kind of at a tempo that you're not fully exerting everything, but you can kind of hold it. So you're holding it steady. So that workout becomes faster in theory because there's no breaks in between, but also you're kind of getting your body used to the idea of, getting slightly, obviously getting comfortable being uncomfortable, but not to the end where you're kind of like sprinting like in the intervals. Like, it's still going to give you that real bang for buck, and it's kind of like defeating a slightly easier boss, but still, getting a decent amount of XP from that. It's not just like a random encounter that you do with a daily run, but it's of that 20% of the, the faster workouts you should be doing. It's really conducive for building your confidence in your running and the ability for you to kick butt. So I've got now that shoe that I use primarily for when I do tempo or interval runs. So then for the rest of my runs, I'll use this type of shoe, a daily trainer. And on that point, kind of at the moment, I've got the new version of this. I've got 2 copies of the new version of this, which I'm having on standby. So when this shoe has so many Ks in it, the shoe will kind of effectively have to be retired because it's getting to a certain useful life, which is exceeded, and then by using it, you'll be more prone to injury, they say. Therefore, you have to buy another pair. So I like to be organized, I guess. And then there's also, so I've covered speed runs, and I've also, I guess another element is the actual race. So by using a race day shoe or shoe specific for race day, this shoe is extremely light, like so much lighter than the other shoes. So when you pop these on, I guess the best way to explain what these are like amazing. They're absolutely worth it. I got these on sale. They're normally $380. I think I got them for 200, which is a crazy good deal, brand new. And when I put these on, if I'm running a pace at say 4 minutes a K, it feels like I'm running it at 5 minutes a K. Like, it's so weird. Like, that's probably the best way of explaining it. And they just push you to really like go faster in such a like insane way. And they kind of protect your legs as well. So by the end of the run, you're not feeling like as fatigued in the legs. It's really interesting. So there's kind of like, that's the point of the race day shoe. So you keep it because you train in the heavier shoe, and then you go to the race in the race day shoe. That's kind of the point of what I'm trying to get at. So you've got that. And then also, I kind of got these the other day for $100, which are, I was kind of seeing these as a daily training shoe and also as a trail shoe. Now, you can see the tread's pretty like thick on these, and the upper is completely waterproof. And I got these for $100. Basically, these, they're called the Pegasus, which is the Nike's like daily trainer that they've used for the longest time. But it's like the Pegasus Trail. So it's a version that you can use off-road. So by, the point of doing trail runs, as I understand it, is you kind of get to do more of the adventure outdoors. You can kind of see more cooler areas, go on trails, and you can kind of build a little bit more strength in your legs because you're kind of going on different surfaces than, say, just like pavement. And that's kind of really exciting to change things up. So if you're kind of more a person that wants to do that type of running, like be one with nature in the wilderness, this shoe is going to be more conducive to what you're trying to achieve than necessarily like an invincible daily trainer. I mean, it'll still be great, this shoe, and it can still do not too bad of a job, but this type of shoe with the tread, the waterproofness, is just going to kind of facilitate that in a better way. So I guess the way that I kind of see the current meta, or all these shoes what to cover, is that we've basically got the idea of daily training. We've got the idea, which is 80% of your runs. You've got the 20%, which is going to be your tempo runs, your intervals, and your races. So you want to save or use a shoe that's more conducive for going and giving you that bang for buck at the speed. That's kind of like almost if you kind of, depending how you look at it, the mechanical doping or kind of, using a shoe to, get the best out of you, that you kind of save for race day, to really get that extra PB. Like, it depends how committed you are to this. And look, the thing is, you don't need a race day shoe because they are expensive. You don't need a speed day shoe. Like I said, I used this back in the day and it was fine. And if I was to say to someone like, go run a 5K in this, they can do it. There's no problem at all. It's like obviously not necessarily going to be as easy as the others, but you can do it like absolutely like no problemo. So if I was to kind of look back and reflect on this, what I would say now is I'd say still get a good daily trainer. But depending on your budget, you can invest in a daily trainer that's going to be able to cover a little bit more and give you like a bit extra, extra for it. So in the case of that Invincible, I consider that like a premium daily trainer, although I got it for a good discount, in the sense that it can really handle these slower runs well in terms of protecting your legs, the recovery miles. But if you, have a decent speed or turn it up a little bit, you won't get as much energy back, but it will still protect those legs when you put those sessions in. So if you kind of want to go the next step, if you had something, say, like an Asics Nova Blast 4, they call it, that's like the Invincible in terms of it's got a really nice foam, but it's a little bit more conducive for going at those faster speeds, or while having a good longevity of a daily trainer, so you can use it for lots and lots to get lots of, I guess if you think about it, like like dollar per kilometer if you want to do it that way, or dollar per use. Say if you know, that shoe can do 700 Ks and it costs you maybe 200 and I think it's $260 at the moment, or maybe it's more. Like you kind of break it down that way. So that's kind of like the way I would see it and explain it. Like if I had to start again, get a daily trainer and that's fine. If you want to invest in a Speedwork shoe that you can use also for races, that works too. You know, if you can get a good deal, but you don't need like, so I've got also another pair of shoes, which is like the race day version of these that don't have those AirPods, or the purple ones. I've got another, like I said, 2 Invincibles. And yeah, like, I guess the thing is, I've been running for a bit now, and this has kind of like happened slowly over time. And like, I've only gotten these shoes because they're such great deals, and I'll kind of have a separate video on that and how much I paid for everything and breaking everything down. But if I was to kind of explain why it's important. See, for me, I really like running now. I really enjoy it. I find the technology really exciting. I like the idea of being able to do different types of runs and really getting a lot more out of it than just kind of like a standard type of run, a very prescriptive. I like swapping things around, having the ability to do different types of runs, running different type of shoes. And, you know, I find it really exciting. So it's kind of like, if you were to think about it, and as I always say, to conquer mountains, conquer life. The mountain that you might want to conquer will be a different type of mountain for the shoe that you're doing or training for. For example, you might just want to conquer mountains in the sense of being able to run every day. So a shoe like an Invincible would be perfect. You're just putting the shoe on, running every day, getting those benefits. You might be someone that wants to train for something more specific, 5K really fast or a 10K really fast. So you might want to invest in something that's more suited for the speed. Or you're someone that has an unlimited budget and you kind of want everything. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, in how you conquer the mountains and conquer life, I wanted to provide this video with context, sort of guide you what I would do if I had to start again, and kind of in the direction of what you need first. You need a good daily trainer because that's 80% of your runs. The more expensive you go of a daily trainer as a more premium option, it's going to cost more, but you can leverage it for more faster workouts and even racing them. So you can kind of have all your bases covered. You can have it just like the original running shoe meta was. And I guess you could kind of argue this is kind of silly because, look, running shoes are taking the piss, companies are taking the piss, and creating all these products and making you pay for all this money. Yeah, true. But the way I see it is, running has gotten a lot more attention because of it. Everyone's running and out there more so than ever. Yeah, it's probably a bit unnecessary in terms of all the extra shoes that get made and then, you know, eventually chucked into landfill. But overall, if there's more people out there exercising and conquering mountains and conquering life every day and kind of getting them to experience the joy of running how I see it, and say getting away from the bad habits like, you know, playing a lot of video games, you know, eating junk food and kind of a lifestyle that's not really conducive for being out there, pushing yourself, then I think that's a good thing. And that's, of course, what I want to conclude with. Conquer mountains, conquer life. Thank you.